I'm very excited Natalie's with us tonight. Natalie is my friend. We went through the same program in Houston, Texas, the Cornerstone program that you hear a lot about, that Joe Parker leads. He owns the program. It's a very dynamic, intensive program. It's not for somebody just to sit out on the sidelines and watch their kid do the work. It's a parent-driven recovery community. And Natalie has done the work. And I had the privilege of watching her awaken the program or graduate from the program just this past April. And what was even more special about her awakening is she awakened with her son. And her son did share his testimony with the Every Brain Matters community too. So Natalie and I were just talking. That awakening was very special that night because there was two sets of moms and sons graduating or awakening with each other. And there was a mom there awakening without her son, which pulled at our heartstrings, but she still did her work and did what she needed to do to take care of herself and work her own program. And you're going to hear a lot about that tonight with Natalie. I was so excited. I think I asked her that night, right after she awakened, and I heard her get up on stage and share a little bit of her story. And I was just, I knew her. I had already been impressed with her. I'd already watched her work really strong over these past few years. But when I heard her on that stage that night, I did go up to her, congratulate her, and say, hey, would you come talk to the Every Brain Matters community? They would greatly benefit from you. And she was like, absolutely. So here we are tonight. And we're very grateful for her. She's going to share her experience, strength, and hope. And I know that each one of you will benefit from it. So Natalie, thank you for being here. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. She's going to speak for about 30, 40 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever she feels like, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers at the end. So thank you, Natalie. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Natalie, and I'm a mother of three. And my oldest, I have a son that's 23, and I have a son that's 20, and I have a daughter that's 16. The son that I'm going to speak about, I'm going to go ahead and use his name because I have awakened with him, and he also is an advocate here on this platform and some other platforms as well. And so you can go back in the archives and look at his, watch his story if you'd like. So I guess I'll just kind of begin at the beginning. We're a very conservative family, church on Sundays, straight and narrow type of thing. My first son was very obedient and homebody and that type of thing. So I was really kind of taken by surprise when my second son, when Drew was different. He was just, kind of rambunctious, made his own path, just a lot of very endearing personality, a very enduring personality, but kind of where it was, I didn't have control over this one, where the other one I had like control over. And I'm putting that in air quotes because you don't have control over other people, basically. And that's a big thing that we go when we go through the program, that you learn that other people are not within your control. And so you have to learn how to put your boundaries up, put boundaries around yourself, instead of trying to put boundaries around other people. And then, have rules in your household that uphold those type of boundaries. But I'll get more to that later. So already Drew was different in that I had to put up more boundaries, and I had to have more house rules and that type of thing. And then we kind of fast forward to when he's probably around 6 years old, and I felt like he had ADHD, and I took him to a psychiatrist and turns out that he did. He was put on medication. Um, and I'm not an anti-medication person at all, but I will kind of let you know how this played a role in our lives. So, fast forward to 9 years old, he's getting into trouble quite a bit at school, and we all, I and his father divorced, and it's you know, that's when I put my first baggage on my shoulder, something that I kind of is there, and it kind of drives the way that you do things and the way that you make decisions, because you have this baggage that you put there, this guilt, this you know you start projecting your feelings onto your children, uh, perhaps, you know, and so I had like a lot of pity for my children, because I was like, I never wanted this to be this way for them. And so I was kind of a guilt-driven mother, if you will. Um, wasn't their friend. I didn't act like their friend, but I still had like a soft spot. And so we're at 9 years old now, and it's around this time, somewhere between 6 and 9, that Drew started to abuse his Vyvanse. And you might ask, well, mother, why didn't you know that he was abusing his Vyvanse? And that's because we got 90-day supplies, and I didn't make him take them on the weekends, and I didn't make him take it on in the summer. And so, and it wasn't like gobs of it. He just, in his own mind, he thought, well, if this one makes me feel good, what does two feel like? And this, I didn't know this at first. I found this out through recovery. And you think, what makes a 6-year-old think that, or 7, 8, 9, I'm not really sure. He says it was closer to 6, and I'm thinking it's closer to 9, but because that's when his erratic behavior started. And so fast forward to the day. So up until the day, we knew that he was using marijuana. Still didn't know anything about pills in any kind of way. Didn't know he abused his medication. So as a parent, it's you're busted, you're grounded, and you're gonna stop this. The next week, you're busted, you're grounded, you're gonna stop this. It was a cycle of control instead of trying to put control over it, instead of trying to get to the root of the problem, or say you can't live here if you do that, or you're going to sleep in the garage if you do that. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, you can't go with your friends the next time they want to go someplace. And so I knew he was smoking. I knew he was getting in trouble. I knew he was getting in trouble when he went to his friend's house. So I called up the parents that he was hanging with, and I was like, hey, I just gave Andrew a P test, and he's smoking marijuana. So I just thought I would let you know. Oh, well, our oldest son did that. He'll get over it. It's just a phase. It's really just a phase. And I call the next parent. Oh, it's just a phase. I did that when I was their age. And I kid you not, 3 out of 4 parents I called pretty much dismissed it. And again, I was doing this for them, because my son is going to negatively influence them. And I didn't really get any support. I think one time Andrew and his child were smoking at his house, and one father like blew up and was like, "You're out of here." And I think there was a confrontation between his son and Andrew tried to spin that story. He tried to make it that the dad attacked the son and was going to attack him. So come get me. And, not one mention of marijuana at all. So as you can see, there was a lot of deceit. So in May 5th of 2020, I got a call. I was at Sonic with my husband, Chris, and we got a call from Andrew's dad that Andrew was heading back home with his sister, some drugs, and a gun. So I raced home to beat him there, and we came up. My husband and I came up with a plan to send him out for burgers, give him some cash, and send him out for burgers as soon as he got in and put his stuff up in his room, because he was coming home from his weekend visit. So while he was gone, I called his dad, told him, come on to the house, and went and dug through his room. And I was having a really hard time finding this stuff that was supposed to be there. And his little sister came in and she went right to where everything was. And the reason his dad knew he had a gun is because his two stepdaughters and my daughter had found it at his house. So we packed all that stuff up and we went and put it on the coffee table in the living room. And my son came in and he saw his dad and my husband and me standing around the coffee table, and you should have seen the look on his face. He was like, "What?" Like two universes had collided or something. And we sat him down, and at that point I really didn't have a game plan, but I could see it was going to go in the same direction it had always gone in: denial, blaming it on someone else, holding it for someone else, all these excuses that you use. And most of the time you believe them because they're your little angels that you raised, so how can you not believe them? So I did call a family member who's in law enforcement just to run what I was thinking past him. And because my thought was that gun could have been used in a crime, it would be completely illegal for me to dispose of it for him or get rid of it. And yeah, the drugs, some people in the room wanted the drugs to be flushed because they didn't want him to pay any consequences. And but I knew he was 16, and so I called my cousin and basically said, if I were you, if it were my daughter, I'd turn in everything and have him pay the consequences now versus later, because you're talking about life and death. So that's exactly what I did. I called the cops and they came and they ran the gun and it was stolen. And this is where we get to the marijuana part of it. There was not any leafy green stuff or, there was no, your mother's marijuana wasn't there. It was this big, this big, this thick wax. He had enough wax there. The cop said he had enough wax there to send them away for distribution. And come to find out, he was distributing. He was distributing all kinds of drugs, edibles, wax, everything. But he would take his cut of what he wanted to use out of it first. And that was why he had a gun. He'd been, I forgot what he called it, but basically he'd been jumped several times, money stolen, a gun to his head. One time he had come home and he goes, "Mom, can you wash my pants?" I was like, "Why? What's wrong? What's going on?" Because I was standing at the washer. And he said, I have, sorry guys, we call it water poop. He goes, "I have water poop." And I go, "Okay, I'll do that." Later, I found out, later he admitted that that was because he had had a gun hit held to his forehead. And he had, soiled himself, basically. So, when you're thinking about marijuana and what it does to their brain, also think about sometimes what it takes for them to be carrying that around, for them to protect it, so they say. There's marijuana around, if there's wax around, there's likely to be some type of weapon around. So back to the story. The officer brought us out and he said, what is it that you want to happen here? And I said, I really want him to be scared to death. So if that means like jail or whatever, and you have to remember this is also during COVID. So I said, whatever needs to be happened, whatever needs to happen, and take the gun and but I think because it was during COVID, I think he kind of lucked out because he took everything, put it in evidence bag. He gave us a card and said a district attorney will be getting back with you. He had his number on it, a case number, everything. But I said, the one thing that we're about to do though, we're about to take him to rehab. And I think maybe also, if it wasn't COVID, it was that saved him. So this is a Sunday night, and then I was working from home the next day. So I called around and my ex-husband called around and we came up with Sunday. And I couldn't get him in that Monday. But when I went to bed that night, because of the look that he had and the black in his eyes and just the way he stared at me, I was scared that night when I went to bed. I locked the bedroom door and we turned on the alarm so we would know if he tried to leave and everything. So the next day I was like, I cannot go through another night like that. So I called him up and I said, if we had arranged, that day, if I come at night and spend the night in Athens, can you take him first thing in the morning on Tuesday? And they did. So my father and I took my son up there, and it was an emotional ride. I can say that we didn't handle it very well. My father and myself, we yelled at him a lot. And then we slept in the hotel, and he didn't want to sleep with his grandpa. He wanted to sleep on my bed, and he put his head on my chest, and he wailed. He wailed like a baby. And that was the hardest thing. I mean, it's like, I know I made the right decision, but, again, that guilt. Did I have any contribution to this? Did the divorce have any contribution to this? Did me being a single mom and traveling, did that have any contribution to this? And we pulled up, and it's kind of like a rustic, I'm losing words here. It's a out in the woods type sundown, basically, rehab. So we take them in, and again, it's during COVID. They're supposed to shave his head, but they can't, and just different things and different protocols. And so I didn't get to see him during the check-in part, and they did us really, really fast. And then it's time for me to leave. And again, mommy, don't go. My son had never called me mommy, but he's crying, wailing, mommy, don't go. Now, I don't know. Part of that might have been manipulation. I don't know, but it did affect me. So we, after that, it was peaceful at home. It was very peaceful, and we joined Cornerstone, and Cornerstone helped us use that time of peace to start learning the program, to start working the 12 steps, to start um, looking at ourselves. We didn't cause this, but could we have contributed to it? What there's a catchphrase, and I can't remember what it is, but um, basically, you know, the parents didn't do this, but we were there when it happened, and we probably might have had something to contribute to it. So we started working on ourselves. I can remember my first, I don't know how many meetings. All I did was cry. I just felt like, and there were other people crying too, but I just felt guilty for my crying. But it was also there's two parts of Cornerstone. There's the climbers where you go and crying is good, and you have some um, crosstalk between the members of climbers. And then the parent meeting Thursday, that's more about the 12 steps. It's very structured. You have a topic and you talk on it. So that one, I eventually stopped crying in that one. And I actually started helping the newcomers by that time. I've been in it for a little while. So he'd gone in May, and he came out June 15th. And we had him go immediately to his host home. So that's another part of Cornerstone, is that the kid doesn't come back to you, because if he comes back to you, you don't have time to work on yourself. And also, he's right back in his surroundings with his friends in his room and his hidden stash that you still haven't found. We went to go pick him up, and we brought two boys with us, and these are Cornerstone kids, and this is what they do. They go and they get, and we get the kid, and your kid is right in the middle seat with the other two around them, and these are their new, I don't know, chaperones, bodyguards, whatever you want to call them, new best friends. And it works. I don't know how it works, because they're complete strangers. What if they have different personalities or what? But it just works. And so he went to the host home, and the host home made a list of shots and consequences, basically shots of the house, the rules, and then there's the consequences, and they are held to that house shots and consequences. In the meantime, at home, I'm working on my own shots and consequences, and my ex-husband is working on his. Which, if you are divorcees working on it, is best if you try to have the same. I know a lot of people in the program who didn't, and it didn't work out so well for them. So if you're divorcees, it's really a good idea to just leave your baggage behind and just coordinate on those shots and consequences. And those shots and consequences saved us. So fast forward to somewhere, I want to say right after Halloween, maybe I think before Thanksgiving, because we had Thanksgiving with him. He was home. But he didn't come home alone. He came home with another boy. So now it was my turn to kind of host a newcomer. And now Andrew is responsible for this kid. And I use responsible lightly. I mean, again, you can't control someone. That one has to, work their program. But Andrew had, even though during this thing he was full of deceit, he had a way of calling out someone else who was full of deceit. He made so many kids, or he encouraged so many kids to come clean. It was unbelievable how many kids he got to come clean about things. And he came clean. Every time I saw him, he was coming clean with something new. Um, or something from the past that he, oh yeah, I told you this one, you know. So let's see. Okay, so now we're at where he's hosting. Well, he was hosting this one kid for a while, and they were traveling back and forth to um, second stage, or I don't know. I think it was second stage, but also no, it was first stage. He was going back and forth to first stage, which is kind of like it's a 2 hours, 3 hours that they every day that they work on their steps, and then they have other things, yoga, and they got a wreck. But I had just called a shot on him that for another addiction that he had, that was not substance related. Um, it had to do with social media and things on social media. And so he had that addiction, and I had busted him in that. So I, my heartstrings were going, oh, don't let me. And the shot was to move out for 30 days. And he had to work in couch hop at somebody else's house. And he had to figure that out, and he would be allowed back after that. And I said, the only way I'm going to get through this is if I'm going to pack his bags by the door. And when he comes in, I'm not going to make a lot of eye contact. I'm not going to do a lot of friendly stuff. I'm just going to say, I took the liberty to pack your bag. You could check it if you like, but I need you to leave and begin your consequence. And that was another really hard thing to do. And it worked. I think 29 days later, he was like, and we talked in between. It's not like we lost communication or anything. He's like, can I come home one day early, please? And I said, yeah, you can. So he came home, and he just kept working his program. But just some things I want to, and the end of the story. The end of the story pretty much is that he awakened and I awakened, and it's beautiful, and I have a closer relationship with my son than I've ever had. Actually, my son and my daughter, my youngest daughter, because she would have been down the same path. She tried self-harm with pills because of this whole ordeal. While it was going on, she was keeping a secret, and that was just too much for her. That she was 12. So she just left the program. She didn't awaken, but she left on good terms. She's in a really good place. She's worked her steps. She just didn't go through some of the other things that it takes for you to awaken, some other requirements. But she's in a really, really good place. But back to what I wanted to say about marijuana. Like I said at the beginning, it is not a plant any longer. I mean, it may start out that way, but it is so, I forget the word. I'm losing the word right now, but enhanced. It is so enhanced. It is so much more potent. It drove Andrew into psychosis, and there is a history of mental illness on my father's side of the family, bipolar to be particular, if I'm being honest here. And I was already watching out for my boys, because the age of the first psychotic break can be anywhere from 18 to 25. And they're not even allowed to diagnose you until 18. So it's almost like they're waiting for you to break before they diagnose you. And Andrew was definitely in a psychosis because I think what it took um, his ability to be manic, or his probability to be manic, and it just went from there. He thought he was a drug pimp or whatever they call it, drug king or whatever. I'm not sure what the terminology is, but he thought he was that. He once told me that he could tell people to do backflips and they would do backflips because he had what they wanted. He told me that he shot at a vehicle of some guys that had tried to jump him, and then they got into the vehicle and he shot at it. He told me he broke into a smoke shop through the window. Just if he did all these, if he didn't do all these things, psychosis. If he did all these things, psychosis. It all ends the same. Either they are in some grandiose world of their own, or I've seen one kid who was very much a conspiracy theorist. So they're either in a world of their own, or they really are doing these things. I found out with my son that he really was doing these things, but what was driving him to do these things? What was giving him um, what was making him think he could get away with these things? Um, and he told me he had a lot of people to make amends to. At the when it was time to make amends. I know teachers, he had tons to make amends. I think he got 21 write-ups in like the last 6 weeks period, the 6 weeks of the 10th grade, which was the last grade that he completed in school. But he did get his GED on his own. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't even know he was doing it. He got the money from his dad, and he did it. But yeah, it's just, until you've seen it with your own eyes, and I've seen a coffee table of it, you would just not believe what these kids are doing, and how it makes them behave. And if there's any propensity, any gene in your family's history for mental illness, this is just the key to just opening up Pandora's box. I've just seen too many kids that did not return to the way that they were before. And it's just a really sad place to be. But I'm open to questions. I'm an open book on this because I really want to help others. And I really don't want to see mothers awakening without their kids. It's just, when you see a mother, but there's so much. And also, a lot of times, whether the parents are together, separated, divorced, or whatever, there's a lot of occasions where it's just one parent doing all the work. So that's my story.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I have a few questions before we open it up, and just a few comments too before we open it up to everybody else. First of all, I just want to say I love you, and I really appreciate you sharing this. I know it's not easy, especially to relive all that too. That was difficult times, and I mean, I could just feel it from you, like thinking, are we going to make it through? Is he going to make it through? Like, it's not in our plan. And I mean, especially when you described how much THC wax he had on him, and the gun, and I mean, just the mess that must have been extremely scary, extremely scary. Um, I do want to share too. Natalie's son was coming in and out of my house. When we talk about this program, Cornerstone, all the families all work together. And so when a shot or a consequence is called, instead of the kid becoming homeless, they go to another Cornerstone family. And that family works as a community to hold that young person accountable. And then the peers help too. So it's a beautiful dynamic in this community. And I wanted to ask you, you were sharing with me the other night that you called, you had to do a consequence with Drew, and you didn't want to follow through on it. It was really hard for you to follow through on it because he had some type of accident that day. Could you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um, so he, uh, that morning, I think it was like 6 a.m. or something like that. I was checking Covenant Eyes, which is an app that you can use for um, putting on your children's devices um, to make sure that they're not, watching pornography or anything that they're not supposed to. And I confronted him about it. He tried to gaslight me as usual. And addicts will do this. Addicts will gaslight you all the time. They'll make it like you're the crazy one. And so I knew I needed to call a shot on him. And I put an email out there to his counselor and to Kirk, and I'm calling this shot because of this, and I mean, I was dead set. And then that evening when he had gotten into a wreck, it was just the heartstrings. Like, oh man, if I had gotten into a wreck, I I wouldn't want my mom to call a shot on top of that. I wouldn't want, it's like kicking you while you're down. And then I thought, those shots and consequences are on the refrigerator for a reason. And it doesn't matter if he did it before or after the wreck. You know, I gotta I gotta call the shot. And so I had his bags packed up and had him by the door. And he came in and I said, let's make this quick. Pack your bags. Let's, you've gotta go. And he was with one of the people that he was supposed to be taking care of as well. So he had to call around the Cornerstone homes and find a couch for the both of them. And and I've lent my couch out, but I generally were like, you can have the couch for 1 or 2 days, and then you have to move on. You got to find another place, and we do that so they're not comfortable. You know, when you get out of the house, you're not going to be comfortable for 30 days. You're going to be trying to find your next home, within the program. But it's orchestrated. We all know whose couch is available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to be okay. They're going to be safe. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is hard. It's just amazing. It's so hard to call a consequence and then with the wreck on top of it, like you said, kick him while he's down, right? So
Yeah.
hard. And
Yeah.
I just want to share too that I knew Drew and I was starting to say something earlier, but that there was a particular night that I really bonded with your son. Um, I was there and the kids were all at a restaurant. And there was another young man in the Cornerstone program who was in a really bad space. And I could tell this kid is in deep psychosis. He's about to bust. Like he was really bad. And he did. He was having a psychotic break and he tried to run out of the restaurant into a major highway is what was his plan. And a bunch of us stopped him. And we knew, working with the professionals there on the scene and the counselors and calling the family on the phone, and we're like, we got to get this young man to the hospital. This is the family wanted him to go to the certain hospital. And I said, okay, I'll drive, but I need support. I need people here because he's gonna, jump out of the vehicle. And Drew was one of the kids that came that night. And I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the most beautiful things you see when these kids support each other through these really crisis times. And Drew was just this beautiful young man who just really understood that his friend needed help, and was very calm and loving with him and supportive. And they all surrounded this young man in the back of my SUV, and we got him there safely. And it was very calm and quiet. And it was an over an hour drive.
Mm.
And then we get him to the hospital, and on the way back, they start asking questions, and they want to know more about psychosis, and they want to know more about marijuana. And they're just really engaged in this conversation with me and asking me these questions. And Drew's like, that's what happened with me. I was completely delusional. I really thought I was this like kingpin. And he started really sharing with me. And that night, you could just kind of see like, he was like, I don't have to ever do that again. It's over. Like, I don't ever have to go back to that space. And then I just watched Drew in, progress in his program. And Natalie was in a different part of Houston, but we would run into each other every once in a while and kind of touch base and talk, and with her and her husband. And it's just such a beautiful thing. The recovery world is such a beautiful world, and there's a lot of great connections and things to learn. So it was really cool to watch that night. So I know, and I just want to say, it's because of Natalie and her family's hard work of holding that strong line with Drew is why, they're like his health was their priority, and they were not going to negotiate that. And you could feel it, you could see them, you could watch them in action. It was just amazing. Our children's health is non-negotiable. And so I'm really grateful to have witnessed that. So thank you for being here, Natalie. Let's open it up to the rest of the attendees to see if they want to ask you a question or make a comment. So go ahead and unmute anyone who'd like to jump in. Ask the hard questions, it's okay.
I'd like to say something, a comment. Natalie, I just really admire your commitment in, I'm going to get emotional, but that's tough. It's tough love to stick to that, and knowing that it's going to be hard, but you love your son enough to do that for him. So just, it's just, you're very inspirational.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, a lot of parents struggle with, gosh, I don't want to take him out of school. Gosh, I don't want, take him out of school to put him in a rehab, or um, take him out, take them out of their job, or you know, these things, they disrupt life. They disrupt life the way that we know it. And we try to like get, and that's what I was doing before with the grounding, and then we try to get back to life the way we know it as soon as we can. And we can't, oh, okay, that's a diversion, let's get back. That's a diversion, let's get back. But really, we have to get uncomfortable for anything to work with our kids. And the uncomfortable thing for us was taking them out of school. Now, granted, it started in the summer, so I didn't have to make that decision right away, because it was like May 4th when I took him, but May 5th. So he finished up school in sundown. But had it been the school year, that would have been a big decision. Oh my God, I take him to rehab and he missed school. Or what's another one that parents just like really struggle with, because we've got these ties to the norm. We want our kids to go to school, get a part-time job, go to college, hold that part-time job. We have all these things that we want our kids to do, and it's really difficult to stray from that. But you have to think, in the end, if I had to lay him to rest, would I be caring about whether he got his GED or whether he graduated the normal way? Well, that's the thing, and these drugs are they're gonna kill them. These lifestyles, even forget the drugs, the lifestyle is alone. They get on these drugs, they race their cars, they just do crazy things. But thank you very much, I appreciate it. But that's a good point that we do have to have tough love, and we do have to go outside the norm and get outside of our skin. And most of what we have to do makes us very uncomfortable, but it's worth it. It really is. Because now I have so much joy in my kids. I really do.
Yeah, that's so true. Gosh, that's why we say none of this is easy, right? And I think another point where you were saying, what is another situation where families want to cave? I have seen it. They want them back in school. And the other thing I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this too, Natalie, is like a family vacation.
Mhm.
You know, they
Yeah,
they allow their kid to lean up and stop working their program because they've had this vacation planned for so long, and they can't imagine going on the vacation without the kid, and you totally understand it. But then I've seen things fall apart, because the priority wasn't the mental health of that individual. So
that's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
I've,
see.
I've seen that too, and it's like, would you rather have them on that vacation and their plan go awry, or would you rather see them in the grave? I
Yeah,
mean, you really have to get that serious and that graphic with it in your head.
yeah, I know it's um, Jennifer, you put some comments in the chat. Did you want to talk or do you want me to read them for you? Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, if you want to read them, she's upstairs.
Okay, no
So I'm
problem.
trying to,
So Jennifer put in the chat, our daughter is 20 and 3 weeks. She is in denial about her psychosis. She has been She has been compliant as far as we know. Her medical marijuana card was revoked, a whole story in itself. But there continued, there's some psychosis still present, I think. How long does it take to go away? We have her seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist weekly, which she has been compliant with, and she wants to be well. P.S. This is all starting after 6 years battling anorexia and bulimia. Um, Natalie, if you don't mind, I'll comment first and then turn it over to you. Okay, Jennifer, some people recover very quickly from psychosis. Some take weeks, months, years. There's a particular young man, and I'll be publishing his story here soon, that Natalie and I are connected with their family, that has been in psychosis for 2 years and just recently started to feel like he was out of psychosis. The main thing you can do to help your daughter, she's willing to be better. So this is the moment in her recovery that you throw everything in the kitchen sink at her, meaning she needs healthy peers that she can be around. She
okay.
needs as much counseling and a program that she can get. And when I say program, I mean like we call it an enthusiastic program, which she's having fun too. And she's just not working on the addiction and the psychosis where it's really weighing on her shoulders, so she can
Yeah.
have these fun activities. And I don't know what state you're in, and I know sometimes these resources are
Yeah.
are not
Florida.
necessarily. You're in Florida. Okay. Oh, there's some good connections there then. I think I can send you might already be connected with some of the other programs, but there are some resources in Florida. But yeah, so the number one thing is healthy peers, healthy, sober peers for her. And then you and your husband and any family member that's willing to work, grandparents, aunt and uncles, start working your own recovery program. That means going to every Maranon, Al-Anon meeting, whatever the program you choose. If you choose different programs to come into that craft or whatever it is, I know there's different ones, there's PALS and all that. Maranon we've developed specifically for these types of issues. A lot of people are finding support there. You're welcome to come to any of those meetings and just really dive into your own program, find a sponsor that you, and then start finding healthy peers for yourself.
Mhm.
I'm happy to put my number in the chat. You can reach out to me anytime. Natalie, if you're willing to also, that's is what we do. The service part, this 12th step is providing service. So healthy peers around your daughter, healthy peers, you and your husband have healthy peers around you.
Mhm.
Those are the next steps in the right direction. And then there's also a book called Monsters to Miracles that I think you should read too.
I think I emailed you when I got your number from
Okay.
Johnny's Ambassadors, and you told me about this meeting and you told me about that book, and I just got it the other day and I'm halfway through.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Great question. So Natalie, do you want to add anything to that? I do remember emailing you
Yeah.
and talking to you, Jennifer. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that Monsters Miracle is a great place to start because it's the type of program that Cornerstone is.
Yeah.
And
Is she too old for it?
If she's 20, I think it's up to the counselors. I know it's, so they customize programs. So every kid in Cornerstone has similar things to their program, but they're all a little different. So Joe Parker is the main counselor there, so you can come meet him on the Wednesday evenings and see what you think and talk to him. And he
Okay.
can let you know. But there might be something even closer to you.
Yeah, like I said, this just happened and we were like, and she just came out of a program. The 20th of August. So we're just kind of, I have a good counselor. It's just been 6 years. She's been battling an eating disorder for a long time and got over that and then jumped into this. So it's similar but different.
Yeah, I get that. We, in the Cornerstone program, not everybody's there for a substance use disorder or a mental illness problem. We have people like that have anorexia and bulimia there too. So
Yeah.
it's, so yeah, and with the marijuana too, that there's a syndrome, I don't even know if that was looked at, called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, that probably plays into all those other things she's dealing with. So it's a lot she's managing. And just to kind of say, that's the research shows, the science shows, the two main things to support health and recovery is healthy, sober peers, one, and a healthy family dynamics is two.
Yeah.
So it's just, you can't change that overnight, but just taking those steps, then, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't know. And I put my name in the chat. Natalie, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I also think that for if you have adult children, and they live with you or they come to you for money or that type of thing to support their habit, that there are sober living homes. And you can require that if they are not sober, that they go to a sober living home. That was Andrew's ultimate. If he broke sobriety, then he would go to a sober living home. We would sell his truck to pay for it, and I think that was one thing that kept him in line, definitely for sobriety, because he knew we were serious about that if it would happen, and and I'm talking about at the time he was only 18, I think. So, because he was in the program for 3 years. So he was 16 to 19 basically. And I was like, oh, and there was another mother that did, and we did a tour of the sober living home, and another mother too. So, sober living homes are for adults. So, if you can put that type of boundary around yourself, if your child is, especially if your 25-year-old son or daughter is still living with you, that's a good leverage there. Or if they come to you for money a lot, and you know that's because they're spending it on drugs, that's another, you know, thing that you can say, I need you sober, basically. When I help you without you being sober. And they do drug test at the sober living. They will get kicked out of the sober living if they're not sober. So that was my last, because a lot of, when you said can 20 get in, I thought, you know, we might have people in the audience that have older adult children, and so that's good to know that too, to leverage sober living.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're kind of keeping the vehicle. Like today she started a class at college, at the college here in town, and she was really excited about it. She's really excited about having her life back. So we said, well, you know, the car, access to her debit card, you know, which is all money she earned, but we're still controlling it, so to speak. I mean, you know, like we took her debit card, so she couldn't go to the dispensary. You know, so we have some leverage. It's hard to, you know, it's just that, but you've inspired me, so
Yeah.
very
Well,
much so.
yeah, I'll put my number in the chat too, and I'm completely open to, you know, emails, phone calls, questions, anything.
Natalie, do you still sponsor people?
I do not have a sponsor right now, but I am willing to sponsor still.
You are, okay. So if we have people from Maranon that are looking for sponsors, you're willing to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any more comments or questions? Okay. We are over the time. I just want to thank you all, and I just want to say, especially to Laura, you know, we can do everything right. You know, we really can, and have a not good outcome. And we can still draw a lot of strength and hope from each other, which I do from each and every one of you. And a special shout out to Laura, who does that every day. And I love you. And I just want to give a special thanks to Natalie for sharing her experience, strength, and hope, and sharing that with all of us, so we can do what the next right move is in our lives with our loved ones in our recovery, and focus on ourselves, so we can show up as healthy as we can for them and for each one of us here. Natalie, you did an amazing job. Thank you so much.